The world's most important oil producer, Saudi Arabia, today said the row over the emails from the Climatic Research Unit will flare up again at next week's climate change talks, predicting that they'll have a huge impact on the Copenhagen conference. He told the BBC that many developing countries share his views about ClimateGate, as he calls it, and that the climate scandal is sending a wake-up call to the international community. In an email to the BBC, he seems to be stepping back to the days when Saudi Arabia denied man-made warming exists. It appears from the details of the scandal that there is no relationship whatsoever between human activities and climate change. Most climate scientists strongly disagree with that. They point to indirect evidence such as reduction in Arctic sea ice, retreating glaciers, rising sea levels and shifting patterns in the seasons. They also point to two other data sets which reach the same conclusions as the Climate Research Unit on temperatures, using independent observations and analysis. Today, the university announced an inquiry into the furore. We asked the Vice-Chancellor about the Saudi intervention. He's said that, in his view, this whole furore will have an impact on the conference.
Well, in my view, one of the reasons for having a review is to speed so that we all know exactly what of those allegations stand and which fall.
I understand that some climate scientists are suggesting to government that the situation is potentially so damaging that they'd like to see the UK global temperature record reanalysed from scratch to clear the air. And that might not be such a bad idea, given some of the fresh concerns raised with Newsnight about the quality of the programming in question. This is the source code from the Climatic Research Unit. John Graham-Cumming is a software engineer. He's not a sceptic on climate change, but he is shocked by what he's seen in the programming. He compared it with code in the same language written by NASA.
Well, if you look at the NASA stuff, it's really professional. You can look at it, you can see the history. If you look at the work that's done here by these alleged CRU files, it's not the sort of thing you'd expect to see, certainly in commercial industry. You would not see this kind of source code because it's not clearly documented, there's no audit history of what's happened to it, so it would be below the standard you'd expect in any commercial software.
OK, and tell me about the bug that you found in one part of the program.
The programming language actually has a problem, and they've put in some code to deal with that error. Unfortunately, in doing so, they've introduced another error, and the upshot of this is that if the error occurs, the underlying error occurs, they will skip over data that they're trying to plot without any warning to the end user. So in some senses, data in here is being lost.
There are also plaintive comments by one of the programmers at the University of East Anglia trying to grapple with the software.
And so in here he says some things like, something's very wrong, it's my programming ability, isn't it? And once again, it's further confirmation that my abilities are below what is required here.
In fact, the programmer is disarmingly frank. He goes on, yep, my awful programming strikes again. So if you were betting billions or trillions of dollars on the basis of this code, is that something you'd be comfortable with?
I don't think I would be comfortable with that because it's not obvious what it's doing and why it's doing it, and that needs to be made clear.
An amateurish approach over programming doesn't necessarily undermine the unit's final results, and the government told us tonight that there's not currently a case for reanalysis of the data. But the university review, announced today, chaired by a former civil servant chosen by the university itself, won't report until next spring, not soon enough, perhaps, to stop the Saudis or others using the row as ammunition at Copenhagen.